Hi there, welcome to the second episode of my 10-minute one today. And the topic of this one is the surprising news that a man's been arrested in Pakistan for spreading fake news about Southport knifemen that led to protests. Now, what we were led to believe for, 2-3 weeks, was that these riots, protests first of all, that led to riots, the night after these 3 children were murdered in the streets of Southport, we were led to believe that there was a vast amount of people on the far right who started a rumour that led to these protests. That's a narrative that was driven by our government, our media, and our judiciary and police service. And there were people arrested because this became such a big, important thing that the Prime Minister decided that we had to clamp down, and social media was a bad thing, and the far right people on social media were terrible, terrible people. And we've seen people arrested for sharing things on social media as a consequence of what was blamed for the trigger for these protests that led to riots. However, for reference, I'm going to use the Telegraph's article on the subject, with the headline, "Man arrested in Pakistan for spreading fake news about Southport knife man. Farhan Asif denies being responsible for violence that broke out across the UK after stabbings." Now, that's exactly what was blamed for the breakout of violence in the United Kingdom. We all lived through it. We all remember the reaction, and the blame lay squarely at whoever started spreading this fake news. Turns out it was a man in Pakistan. So the story goes, a Pakistani web developer accused of spreading fake news that helped foment anti-immigration and anti-Muslim riots after the Southport stabbings has been arrested in the city of Lahore. Farhan Asif is alleged to have worked for a sensationalist news aggregation website called Channel 3 Now, which published false reports about the identity of the knife attacker. In the hours after 3 girls were killed at a Taylor Swift-themed dance class last month, the site falsely reported that the suspect was a 17-year-old asylum-seeker named Ali al-Shakati. It claimed he'd arrived in the UK by boat last year and was on an MI6 watch list. The accusation was widely shared on social media and blamed for contributing to riots which raged across the country. An ITV News investigation last week accused Mr. Asif of being a significant figure in the website and operating it from his high-end housing estate in the Pakistani city. Confronted by journalists, Mr. Asif denied being responsible for the violence, saying, "I don't know how such a small article or a minor Twitter account could cause widespread confusion." Note, he didn't deny making the false accusation. Channel 3 Now mentioned that the suspect was a Muslim and an immigrant, but this has no connection to the chaos which has been caused by people in his own country. If there was misinformation, it could have been addressed calmly. Why was there such an uproar? The site has since been shut down. So he's not denied he done it. He just doesn't agree that that's what led to the riots. Now, it's not me that's making that accusation. That accusation has been driven by the narrative of the government, the media, and police stroke judiciary since the deaths of these 3 kids in Southport. On Tuesday, police in Pakistani city of Lahore confirmed they had detained Mr. Asif and handed him over to the Federal Investigation Agency. A senior police officer told the Telegraph that Mr. Asif had been taken into custody on the accusation of spreading fake news that incited violence. An official with the FIA confirmed the Pakistani national in his mid-30s had been handed over for allegedly inciting violence online. He was running a news website. Interrogation is underway. The official said, "Well, that's a bit strange. See, we would use different terminology in the United Kingdom, but he's not in the United Kingdom. He's in Pakistan and is apparently being interrogated." He likely will be charged under the cyber terrorism section of the Prevention of Electronic Crimes Act and will be produced before the relevant court after the interrogation is completed. Police sources told Dawn, a leading Pakistani daily, that their own investigations had led to conclude Mr. Asif was not the source of the false news, and he had copied and pasted it from another social media post. Well, you would, wouldn't you? The ITV investigation found that though the Channel 3 News internet domain record was anonymous, that Mr. Asif was listed in records for several linked websites with similar names, layouts and contents, including Fox 3 Now and Fox 7 Now. He denied writing inflammatory articles, saying he focused on US crime stories. He told ITV News, "My understanding is that the article was deleted a day later or might have been done even earlier. There was a full article with an apology. It stated that it shouldn't have happened. It was a mistake by our team and they have been fired." I think 4 people were fired. The information search team, consisting of 3 to 4 people who worked on it together, were all fired. Right, okay. So, what have we learned? Well, we've learned that we've spent 2 to 3 weeks blaming the wrong people. That's what we've learned. Unless, sorry, I need to clarify that. We've been blaming the wrong people unless Mr. Farhan Asif of Pakistan is a far-right racist extremist, because that's who was getting blamed for all this. And although what's happened is unsavoury, we still deny any other reasons for the people in the United Kingdom to actually protest in the first place. We totally ignore that. We're still ignoring it. There's even more people been stabbed and killed in the streets of the United Kingdom since the Southport incident, and we've still not heard the government mention one word about how they're going to rectify knife crime. And the other things that's concerning the people in the United Kingdom that led to protests was fears not about immigrants, but fears on the levels of immigration. Fears not about the country actually having an asylum programme, but fears on the amount of people who are abusing that asylum programme and completely bypassing that asylum programme. People who are got a concern for the lack of housing, and the lack of housing, the more people come in, the housing prices go up, and more importantly, the rental prices go up as we have more people needing a roof over their head. And these are the things that cause people to be concerned in the first place. And yes, the final straw for a lot of people was the murder of 3 kids in Southport. But by blaming the far right and going in the narrative that the government decided, we've totally ignored the notion of considering why people were upset in the first place. And that's dangerous, because that doesn't solve any problems. That just criminalises the people and demonises the people who have these concerns. And that's not a society I want to be part of. I want to be a part of a society where if you have concerns as a society, and where large numbers of people have concerns for society, society listens, and particularly our governments. But the government, the media, the judiciary have all ran the same narrative since the day those 3 children, which is often forgot about now, by the way, that these 3 children were murdered in the streets of Southport. And that's a real travesty. That's no pleasant. But people in the United Kingdom still have the same concerns because they're not being addressed. They're not even being considered to be addressed. So what do they do? Well, if they want, they can protest, despite somebody like Nigel Farage telling British people not to take up their civil right of protest. Peaceful, lawful protest, I may add. We've been told not to do that. But what the difficult bit is, and the clever bit, if they pull it off, is people with concerns being able to get the narrative driven that they're no far-right extremists that are all racists. They're people, and I believe a big fair chunk, if not the majority of people in the middle ground of the United Kingdom, they have valid concerns that must be at least considered. And that's where the key to this is. The key is not to take to the streets to protest and it can be turned into, look at the far right again. The clever bit is turning these protests into things and the narrative can't be flung against you. And that is by the way, is no surprise to me that after such a massive demonstration of word this properly, pride in being British, and pride in the United Kingdom that was shown with the massive demonstration in Trafalgar Square the weekend before all the nonsense started. That's no coincidence. That was a massive show of people being proud to be British and try to celebrate the United Kingdom with not a single bit of trouble. But that whole narrative was tried to be driven that this should be somehow demonised. And then what we saw the weeks after, people have noticed that a lot of people are proud to be British. And that had to be stopped. And it's no missed on me that almost immediately after it, the narrative was far right, bad people, you know, ignore them, all that, and demonise them. These people are not demons, they're not criminals. People in the centre ground that are just proud to be British, like the United Kingdom, are not the enemy here. But they've been made to be the enemy by people who want to drive things like socialism and communism and control and all these things. They don't want people to be proudly British and to be happy with the United Kingdom. It doesn't suit their narrative. So let's not be fooled by them, and let's not play into their hands. So when anybody in the United Kingdom is wanting to do anything that's not been driven by the Socialist Workers' Party and the trade unions, which actually disgusts me, if anybody wants to do any protests and demonstrations and rallies, etc., that isn't driven by these people and is driven by normal people with normal centre ground concerns, and just phrase it in such a way that it's celebrations and pro stuff, no anti stuff. And hopefully we can keep the narrative from being a negative. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not already done so, please hit the subscribe and notifications button. But most importantly of all, unless you're some of the communists that's driving these anti-fascist protests against far-right protests that were just a fakes and a hoax as well, see everybody else. Have a great day. Cheerio, bye now.